I love a good mailbag question. Keep sending them in because they're just fun. I have a good time answering mailbag questions. I want to know where your guys' heads are at. I already know what's in my head. I deal with it 24/7, 365. I can't turn the darn thing off. But hey, this is a really good method for me to, get all of that energy out there and such. So, T Cisneros 521 says, "What's your biggest concern going into next season?" Now, there were about 7 different avenues with which I wanted to go down here because there are about 7 different avenues I could drive a metaphorical car down. I could tell you Oregon just lost their top 6 defensive backs. That's a concern. I could tell you they just lost the captain of their defense, Jeff Bossa. That's a concern. I could tell you they just lost 3 guys who are going to get drafted in Jordan Birch, Derek Harmon, and Jamari Caldwell. That's a major concern. I could tell you that they lost 4 offensive linemen. You've got no more Kavika Rogers. You got no Josh Connerly. You got no Johnny Cornelius. I mean, these guys are moving on. No more Marcus Harper. No, it's none of those things. My top concern. Any of those things can be a concern. You could talk me into any of those things being a top concern, but I think my top concern for next year is something I'm excited to watch, which is strange, but it's that Dante Moore just doesn't ever get right. Go back and I know Dante Moore on paper as an Oregon Duck is the greatest player that has ever taken the field. I'm exaggerating, of course, but what you make up in your head isn't always how it works out on the field. That's my top concern, is that Oregon could be as bad at quarterback as they have been since 2021. That's my top concern. Because Dante Moore, for all the promise, potential, and optimism that I and many others have, is still an unknown. The only time, and he was thrown into the fire. I'm not disputing that notion. It was not a great situation at UCLA. It wasn't handled incredibly well by our old friend Chip Kelly. But when he played, the last time he started a football game, or the last sequence of games in which he started, he couldn't stop throwing it to the other team. Now, Will Stein's offense has been incredibly productive with quarterbacks each of the last 3 years, dating back to his time at UTSA. Over 70% completion, plenty of yards, they're really good. Back-to-back Heisman finalists now that he's made the jump up to Oregon. Pretty good, with 2 guys who have very different physical traits. Bo Nix was taken, 12th overall by the Broncos, 11th, 12th, in that sort of range. Dylan Gabriel will not sniff the first round. Heck, Dylan Gabriel will be lucky to get drafted, and I hope he does. But those guys in the same offense, different traits, different ceilings, same outcome. Bo Nix was more productive, but the same outcome where they were in New York City as a Heisman Trophy finalist. The offense is really, really good. But guess what? I know for a fact that Chip Kelly still knows offense because I just watched him at Ohio State go win a national championship. So you can't lob the argument at Dante Moore's time at UCLA that, Chip Kelly's a washed up. No, not. No, we saw that. He was kind of running circles around Tosh Lupoy and Dan Lanning on January 1st. Not kind of. He was. That's just something that was taking place in more ways than one. He was really, really good. He is still really good. And he was the play caller while he was at UCLA. Always was. Because that's what he really likes to do. So Dante Moore stepped onto the field and, by the way, made plenty of splashy moments. Had some throws that I'm sure many of you have seen on his highlight reel that I feel the same thing that you do when you see that stuff. It's, whoa, this guy could be really good. This guy. How many times have you watched the pick sixes? They weren't just picks. They were pick sixes against Oregon State, Washington State, and someone else, Utah, I think it was. Kept throwing the ball to the other team. Now, that's why he's come into such a great situation, because of the struggles that he had. Sit for a year, learn, watch, observe, soak in, and ease your way into the starting quarterback role. But this is the first time since the Georgia game in 2022 that I have felt uncertain about Oregon's quarterback play. I guess going into the BYU game, I wasn't super sure either. But, Bo Nix came over from Auburn, and it was kind of a mystery basket. You kind of went, okay, I see how this could work, but it didn't work very well over there. And I think Dante Moore is 100% better supported at Oregon this year than what he was at UCLA a couple of years ago. But that UCLA team was not some train wreck dumpster fire. I've never put those two terms together, but they weren't that. I don't know that their offensive line was great, but they had a couple solid receivers and a good offensive coach. And if I remember correctly, they were able to run the ball pretty well. Like UCLA was a really good team in 2022. 2023, he won the starting job after not being the starter initially, and then it all went south. So there are better supported quarterbacks than Dante Moore in that season, but there are less supported quarterbacks out there as well. So for Moore coming into this season, Bo Nix was the last time that I had a question, but he answered that question so quickly. The Georgia game was, oh boy, same old Bo Nix. Bo picks and all this stuff. And then the Eastern Washington game happened. What are you going to take away from that? But then, top 25 team in BYU comes to town, and Oregon's blowing them out, and Bo's marching them up and down the field. Bucky was running crazy, but Bo was making a bunch of plays. I went, oh, that was really... And then a couple games later, when it continued, I went, okay, we're good. We're good. This is better than what was there before. And ever since then, there have been no questions. I never had any questions about Dylan Gabriel. I knew exactly what he was. He was exactly what I expected him to be going into last year. I didn't think he'd put up the same numbers as Bo Nix. I thought he'd set a career mark in completion percentage, which he did. I thought he would put up good numbers, which he did. Is he as good as Bo Nix? No. But was he good? Yeah, really good. So for Dante Moore, that's where my top concern is. Like, is this going to be... Because if you don't have the quarterback right, you can throw that easy schedule out the window. Every game is harder if you don't have good quarterback play. And I think we should all remember that from from several seasons ago at this point, when Anthony Brown just could not consistently complete passes, especially to wide receivers. It was a worse version of Penn State's passing offense this past year. So, good question. Let me know what your top concern is. If Dante Moore is not your top concern, fine. Valid opinion. Back it up in the comments below. Let me know. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.